The trouble started the moment Jackson Pierce saw the lone rider coming down the dusty road toward his ranch. His hand tightened on the doorway, rifle resting loose in his grip. The rider moved with a confidence that made his stomach twist, because he knew that posture. He knew the way she sat a horse like the saddle was part of her body. He knew the shape of her shoulders even after all these years. It was Rose Campbell. She stopped at his gate, the afternoon sun wrapping her in a warm golden glow. Her riding skirt carried the dust of miles. Her white blouse clung to her from the heat. She looked strong, determined, nothing like the quiet 18-year-old girl he'd once held under the cottonwoods behind the church. Those blue eyes lifted to his porch. 20 feet of dry earth stood between them, and for the first time in 15 years, neither of them looked away. "I hear you need help," she called out, voice steady as a fence post buried deep in hard ground. Jackson's jaw tightened. He didn't need help, not from anyone, especially not from the woman who had lived inside his chest like a ghost for half his life. But Tom Brennan and his friends had made sure the whole town knew he was cornered. A ranch too big for one man. No wife, no help, no future unless he accepted what they pushed at him. And now they had pushed her. Why? And why would she agree? Rose tied her horse to the post and walked toward him with the careful calm of someone who had already made an impossible choice. "Tom Brennan said you were hiring," she said, stopping at the bottom step. "Housekeeper, cook, $15 a month, room and board." Jackson's hand tightened on the doorframe. "Brennan's a liar." "I know." She met his eyes without fear. "He's also a man who thinks he can move people like chess pieces." But the job offer was public. Half the town heard it. "If you turn me away now, it looks like you're hiding something." Smart. She had always been smart. "Why?" he asked. The word came out rougher than he wanted. "Why would you agree to work for me?" Something flickered across her face. Not fear, not shame, something deeper. The shadow of an old wound, or the truth she never got to say when they were young. "Because I'm tired of watching from a distance," she said softly. "Because your father died 2 years ago, and mine died last year. Maybe it's time we stop letting dead men run our lives." His chest tightened. She continued in a quieter voice. "Mrs. Morrison told me the truth before she passed. She said my father lied back then. She said you never stopped loving me." The truth hit him square in the gut. He had buried that part of his life so deep it still hurt to breathe when someone dug it up. "And Tom Brennan," he managed. "I don't know what he wants yet," she said. "But I know it involves you. And when he comes for whatever it is, you'll need someone you can trust." Jackson studied her face like a man drowning studies the horizon, looking for lies, finding none. Only the same fierce determination he remembered from stolen evenings behind the old church. He stepped aside. "Room's off the kitchen. Don't expect much." A small smile touched her lips. "I never did." Inside, Rose set her small leather bag on the floor. She looked around the room the way someone looks at a place they've imagined for years. Her fingers brushed his father's old chair. "Your father's furniture," she murmured. "But you moved the table to catch the morning light." He froze. "How do you know that?" She turned to him, steady and unashamed. "I walked past this ranch every week for 5 years on my way to sew at the Miller place. Your windows faced the road. I could see inside." She paused. "I know you drink your coffee black. I know you rebuilt the porch. I know you've never brought a woman here." The air between them tightened. "That's a lot of watching," he said quietly. "Yes." She didn't apologize. "It is." He set his rifle on the mantel, needing something to do with his hands. "The town thinks this is charity. Me taking in the spinster nobody wanted." "Let them think it," Rose said, opening his pantry with a practiced eye. "I sold my father's house and store. I have my own money. I'm not here out of desperation. I'm here because I chose this. And if I'd said no, I would have found another way." The conviction in her voice went straight through him. This wasn't the shy girl he remembered. This was a woman who had lived through 15 years of loneliness, and survived it. "Brennan's pushing me to sell land to the railroad," Jackson muttered, trying to steady himself. 50 acres through the valley. Rose went still. "That's a fortune. They must stand to gain a lot if you sell." "They do. And if I refuse, they lose everything." She turned to him fully, her eyes sharp as steel. "Then we prove them wrong." She reached into her skirt pocket and held out a small leather pouch. She pressed it into his palm. $300, she said softly. "Everything I have. I want to buy into this ranch. As a partner. Not charity. Not employment. Equal." The weight of the pouch was heavy. The weight of her offer was heavier. "Partners," he repeated. "Your name on the deed." Her breath caught. "You mean it?" "I mean it." But before he could say more, she stepped closer, heart in her eyes. "Then we stand together," she whispered, "no matter what comes." And just as he opened his mouth to speak, riders appeared on the ridge, 5 dark silhouettes heading straight for the ranch. Trouble was coming fast. The riders came fast, kicking up dust as they approached Jackson's land. 5 of them, torches in hand, guns visible even from a distance. Rose moved to Jackson's side without hesitation, her eyes sharp and steady. "What do they want?" she asked. "Same thing they've wanted for months," Jackson said. "My land, my signature, my surrender." Rose stepped closer. Then they were in for a disappointment. A shot cracked through the air. Wood splintered near the porch. Jackson grabbed Rose's arm and pulled her back inside as another bullet tore through the window. "They're not giving warnings," Jackson said, checking his Winchester. "They're starting a fight." Rose didn't flinch. "Then we stand our ground." They moved quickly through the house, closing shutters, checking windows, taking positions. Jackson pushed a heavy table against the front door. Rose checked the back window and counted 2 more riders circling around. "They're trying to surround us," she said. "Of course they are," Jackson muttered. Brennan never liked fair odds. Outside, Tom Brennan's voice rose above the gunfire. "Pierce, you think taking in that old maid is going to save you? She's nothing but a burden. Sell the land and we walk away. Refuse, and you both burn with this house." Rose's jaw tightened. "He thinks fear will break you." "It won't," Jackson said. "And it won't break me either." Gunfire erupted again, shattering another window. Jackson returned fire, aiming high to keep them back. Rose crouched beside him, calm despite the bullets tearing through the walls. "Catch your breath," he told her. "This isn't ending quick." She nodded. "Then we pace ourselves." Through the smoke and dust, Jackson could just make out shapes in the yard, moving, spreading, preparing to rush the house. "Rose," he said quietly, "take this." He handed her his Colt revolver. She checked the chamber with practiced hands. "My father taught me to shoot," she said. "He wasn't much good with kindness, but he believed in being prepared." 6 shots, Jackson warned. "Make them count." She gave him a small, steady smile. "I will." The next rush came fast. 2 men ran toward the side door, firing wildly. Jackson fired 3 shots through the window, hitting one in the shoulder and sending the other scrambling for cover. Rose moved to the opposite side, taking a position that gave her a clean view of the back approach. "I see 2 more," she called. "Hold them off," Jackson answered. "But don't expose yourself." A bullet punched through the wall inches from her head, showering her in splinters. She ducked low but didn't retreat. Jackson felt a surge of something fierce in his chest. Respect, fear, something deeper. "Rose," he hissed. "You need to stay down." "I'm fine," she said. "Keep them away from the porch." Hours passed. The gunfire came in waves. Sudden, violent bursts, followed by tense silence. Jackson and Rose worked as if they'd trained together for years. When he needed ammunition, she was already handing it to him. When she spotted movement, he shifted position before she even called out. And all through the night, Brennan's men kept coming. At one point, the torches grew closer, too close. Flames licked the edges of the porch. Jackson cursed under his breath. "They're trying to burn us out?" Then we stop them, Rose said. She fired at the leading rider, hitting the torch in his hand. Flames scattered across the dirt, forcing him to drop it. Jackson hit another rider's boot, sending him tumbling into the dust. Slowly, the attack thinned. Ammunition from the attackers grew sloppy. Their shouts weakened. Their courage wavered. But just when the night seemed to be turning, a new sound cut through the chaos. More horses. At first, Jackson tensed. More trouble? Then he recognized the rhythm. Steady, organized. Lawmen. A loud voice boomed across the yard. "This is Sheriff Wade. Tom Brennan, you and your men are under arrest. Drop your weapons now." Everything stopped. Gunfire ceased. Horses snorted. Men froze in place. The sheriff's deputies, half a dozen of them, fanned out across the property, rifles aimed with deadly precision. Brennan cursed, furious.
"You can't do this! What?"
"We had a deal." "Not anymore," Sheriff Wade said, riding forward. "Your own messenger ended it." Jackson frowned. "What messenger?" A younger rider stepped forward, pale with exhaustion. Danny Morrison, Jake's youngest son. Danny cleared his throat, voice soft but firm. "I sent a wire to the railroad, told them everything. What Brennan and the others were planning, what they've been doing to force you to sell." Brennan's face twisted. "You stupid boy." "Enough," Sheriff Wade snapped. "Railroad cut ties with them, and they issued an order to negotiate directly with you, Jackson. No threats, no middlemen." Jackson felt the weight of the last months shift off his shoulders. They'd won. Rose touched his arm gently. "See? Standing together works." Sheriff Wade looked at Rose. "Miss Campbell, you here by choice?" "Yes," Rose answered without hesitation. Jackson spoke clearly, his voice steady. "She's not a housekeeper. She's my partner, my equal." Something warm flickered in Rose's eyes. As dawn broke, the sheriff led Brennan and his captured men away. Jackson and Rose stood together beside the battered ranch house, the sun rising behind them, painting everything gold. The night had changed everything. But the real test, what they would become together, was only beginning. The morning light brought a quiet calm to the valley, but Jackson's ranch told another story. Broken windows, splintered boards, bellet-scorched porch beams. Bullet holes scattered across the walls like a map of the night before. Rose stood beside him, looking at the damage with her sleeves rolled up. "We've got work to do," she said. Jackson glanced at her, unable to hide the small smile tugging at his mouth. "Thought you'd be halfway to town by now. After everything we just survived," she said. "You really think I'm walking away?" They started repairs that very day. Rose swept out shattered glass while Jackson patched windows. She organized supplies the way she used to organize pieces of fabric, methodical and sure. When he lifted heavy beams, she steadied them from the other end without complaint. And when one of the neighbors rode over to ask what happened, she stepped forward before Jackson could answer. "We handled it," she said simply. "And we'll keep handling it." The man nodded and left. Jackson watched her for a long moment. "You really mean to stay?" he said quietly. Her eyes softened. "I told you yesterday, I'm not here because I was pushed. I'm here because I chose to be." That night, after hours of work, Jackson saddled his horse. "I need to go to town," he said. "County clerk's office."
"Now?" Rose asked.
He nodded. Now. When he returned later that evening, dust covering his coat, he found Rose in the kitchen rolling dough for supper. She wiped her hands on her apron and turned toward him. "You look like a man with something to say." He didn't say a word. He simply held out a set of legal papers. She untied the string and unfolded them slowly. Her breath caught. The bold letters at the top were unmistakable. Pierce Ranch Co-Ownership Agreement. Jackson Pierce and Rose Campbell. Equal partners. Her name was written in official ink beside his. "You?" Her voice trembled. "You actually did it. You offered me everything you had," Jackson said. "I'm giving you everything I've got. Fair's fair." Her eyes filled, but she didn't wipe the tears. She stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him, holding him tight. "Thank you," she whispered, "for seeing me, for trusting me, for giving me a place to belong." Jackson held her just as tightly. "You always belonged here. You just didn't know it." They stood like that in the warm light of the kitchen, the smell of flour and wood smoke filling the room. After a long moment, Rose pulled back slightly. Her voice was steady but full of emotion. "Jackson, I want to ask you something." He nodded. "Ask." She held his gaze without fear. "Marry me." He blinked. "You want me to ask you? You spent 15 years doing what the world expected," she said softly. "Let me do the asking this time. Let me choose you the way you chose me." Jackson swallowed hard. "You're supposed to give a man a chance to plan something." "We've never followed the rules," she said with a small smile. "Why start now?" He cupped her face gently, brushing his thumb across her cheek. "Then yes," he whispered, "yes to all of it." 6 weeks later, they stood inside the same small church where they had once stolen glances as teenagers. The windows glowed warm in the afternoon sun. Sheriff Wade attended. Mrs. Morrison's family was there. Danny stood near the front, proud and nervous. A few neighboring ranchers filled the back pews. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't loud, but it was theirs. When Rose walked down the aisle in a simple cream dress, Jackson felt something inside him settle for the first time in years. She reached him, took his hand, and the rest of the world faded away. After the ceremony, the newly married couple rode home together. Their home. The bullet holes were patched, the windows were replaced. The porch was sturdy again. Rose stepped down from her horse and looked around with quiet pride. "We did this," she said. "We did," Jackson replied. He lifted her into his arms, carrying her through the doorway. She laughed softly and touched his cheek. "I'm already home," she whispered. They shared supper at the kitchen table, warm lamplight dancing across the wood. Later, they stepped outside to the porch they had rebuilt, watching stars bloom across the sky. Jackson slid his arm around her shoulders. "What happens next?" he asked. Rose leaned into him. "We build something good, something strong. You and me, equal, partners," he said. She rested her head on his shoulder. "Partners for life." Together they sat in the quiet night, the sound of distant cattle drifting on the wind, the land stretching peaceful and wide around them. Two lives that had circled each other for 15 long years had finally met in the middle, and the ranch, once a lonely place, felt whole again.